Welcome to Nintendo Ninja News. I'm your host, Chris Dices, and we're here with the next NNN show, episode 59, and it is the big one. It's the discussion about a certain game between this character and this character. And yes, it is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild versus Super Mario Odyssey for a lot of people to decide which is the game of the year. Now, there's other great games out there that's been released. However, I guess for Nintendo fans, this is a decision that, some people would like to make. I'm not really big on what is the top game of the year and things like that. I think we're just very lucky to have two of them in the space of 9-10 months of release and on a new console. And I think that's part of the reason why the Switch is doing so well. And I play both of them. I've played quite a bit of both of the games, and I've come away with a lot of different things. I did not do a review for Breath of the Wild, which I probably should at some point. I am going through the Switch games and trying to review more of them. But I did do it for Mario Odyssey. And the areas that I liked about both of them is this sort of open world type. Now, Breath of the Wild is more open world. I think Mario has a bit more charm and sort of clever little things here and there with the cappy hat and the different worlds and how sort of odd and peculiar it is, but it all sort of fits together very nicely, which was what I liked. I would say that the music in Mario Odyssey is very, very good, especially in some worlds. It's really outstanding. The music in Breath of the Wild is an interesting one because I think it's one of those situations where the music fits it absolutely perfect for Breath of the Wild, but I think if you put it in other games and things like that, it just doesn't sound that great. Like a soundtrack to Breath of the Wild wouldn't be that fantastic. Due to the lack of orchestra type music and that sort of thing. The music is really there to be sort of like the background sort of piece to the whole game itself and the open worldness of it. Now, and I do love, when the Guardians sort of appear in Breath of the Wild and that piano sort of comes up and you get all nervous and that trying to dodge the attacks, which is some very clever use of the music in the game, which I liked. Now, moving on to, I guess, the gameplay of it. Mario, of course, he moves as well as he does. The Cappy Hat transforming into different enemies and creatures and things like that was a lot of fun. And I felt that was really well done. I think one downside about Mario Odyssey is the ease of the game. Now, I know that was purposely done to make things easier for people to play the game of all ages and that, but I really felt like it was a little too easy finding all those power moons. I eventually found 500 and unlocked the last world, and boy, I had some troubles even at the first hurdle of that final post-game kingdom that I was excited to see, but I don't think I'm very good enough to pass it. I'll give it a try, but yes, it was pretty tough. That's when I think the hard stuff happens, is when you get past that 500. You've got to really start looking for those power moons pretty a little harder. It's when you turn the difficulty setting up. Now, with Breath of the Wild, they have all these little Korra seeds, these seeds that you can find, which is about a 900 plus mark too, but they're not particularly that important. You can unlock things and purchase things with it, I believe, but I don't think they're particularly necessary in the game. Finding all the shrines was fun, and I will say some of the downsides of the shrines were, some of them were quite repetitive in terms of some of the things you had to do to get to complete those shrines was a little bit repetitive, and it's kind of like, I've done this about 6 or 7 times in a row. But the same could be said about the power moons in terms of they're kind of very similar setup in each kingdom. So maybe they might have to work on that. Now, both games do a fantastic job of sort of taking the series further in terms of Mario Odyssey, in terms of going back to its roots of Super Mario 64, but doing something new about it. Some of the genius sort of designs, the 2D levels, which are fantastic, and then popping out of the 3D is just such a clever idea. Where with Breath of the Wild, I think its standout thing is how open the world is. You can climb those mountains, even with a stamina bar, and you can literally go anywhere in Hyrule, which was the amazing thing about it, and discover things in that by yourself, instead of sort of, having an open world map and it has all these things pointed out for you saying, oh, you're going to go here and you got to go here and here and here. And I was very, very happy about sort of discovering things by myself. And I played a couple of open world games in the past, Xenoblade and Skyrim and things like that. And it was just a nice, fresh approach. And I really enjoyed that. I think the decision is always going to be personal about which of those two games will be. What do you think, Whisk? Merle? Even he's undecided. I think for me personally, at the end of the day, the question that I ask is which game did I had more fun, which I played more, which game made me sit back and awe more, and sort of in wonder. And I think Breath of the Wild did that for me. Sitting back and looking at the scenery and looking for stuff and just all the little knickknacks that they added to Breath of the Wild, I think was great. Mario Odyssey is a fantastic game, and it does everything really, really well. Both games get a 10 out of 10 for me. However, I just feel like Mario Odyssey didn't really push the boundaries of the series, or really transform it as much as it did, because it still has roots from Super Mario 64 and a little bit of sunshine there and a bit of galaxy there, where the Breath of the Wild really just kind of threw out the rule book. They threw out all the dungeons pretty much. They made it super open world. They made rep and durability things. The Master Sword was used quite differently. And they changed a lot of things up to a point where it still felt like a Zelda game, but it didn't. Like if you inserted another character or in another world, you might not believe it's a Zelda game at all. So that was the thing that that probably leads to my answer that I think that Breath of the Wild is a better game. But they're so close, it's not funny. So both of the games are fantastic, and I hope that either one of them wins all those awards and things like that, and all the Nintendo fans feel warm and giddy and going, oh, my game won the Game of the Year. But at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters. I guess for Nintendo, as long as it sells well and people are happy with it, and more Nintendo Switch consoles have been sold, I think that's the thing at the end of the day. And who knows where the future of these franchises lie. I don't think it means that Mario will be running around with Cappy Hat forever, and I don't think that Legend of Zelda will be in a super open world all the time. They'll go back to more their traditional stuff, maybe for the next game or the one after. But it's been a heck of a ride watching these two games be so successful in a space of 9 months. Now, obviously, Breath of the Wild probably could have been released earlier, and the same thing with Mario Odyssey. But it just sort of happened to all fall in the 1 year, which I think Nintendo was planning. Probably towards the end, delaying the Switch into that 2017. We know there was an official delay, but there were little, whispers and rumors that they weren't quite ready for the Switch, and they put it in March. And I think that was a clever idea, because if you release it in November, it's very hard to buy a console during that time. So that's my whole spiel about Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey and what I thought about it. Do ask some questions in the comments if you want to prod my brain about anything that I discovered during those two games, and what I think will happen for the Switch in 2018. It's going to be an interesting time. So that's it for the NNN show, and for Nintendo Engineers, that's it for me, and I shall see you next time.